Hello everyone, welcome to SwitchUp as we once again have a look at some of the games coming out for the Switch in this upcoming week. In terms of dates, we'll be going from the 7th of September up until the 11th to see if there's anything releasing worth your time and money. So which games are coming out for the Switch this week? Well, let's find out.
This episode was sponsored by the absolutely delightful Selfloss. It's published by Merge Games and comes from a developer called Goodwin Games. We played this at Gamescom, and within 5 seconds of playing I knew it was going to be a complete hit. It's an emotional adventure game set in the Slavic-inspired whale-worshipping fantasy that proliferates this unusual land. The main character has a magical staff, they're called Casimir, and you're battling enemies that are infected by what's known as the miasma, and sailing from island to island on that little boat. Now I cannot tell you, some games you play and you're like, okay, that's all right, and then there are others where you know it's a little bit special, and this is one of those. We've seen a few games like this from Merge where they've managed to select something that just feels a little bit special. Now, the developer himself does tackle some pretty heavy themes throughout the narrative, but it's not completely on the nose. And the self-loss ritual itself is basically about healing the wounds of those who have lost loved ones. An incredible soundtrack as well. This one, as I say, really do keep your eye on it. All the information's at the bottom of your screen, as you can see, and just a massive thanks to Merge Games for sponsoring this episode.
So out on the 9th then we have Yars Rising. This is a sequel, I assume, to Yars Revenge, which came out for the Atari back in 1982. This new game is from the development studio Way Forward, and it says that the franchise will now become an expansive mystery solved through 2D platforming. You take control of a young hacker named Emmy, who is hired by a mysterious patron to infiltrate the shadowy Kotech Corporation. You'll need to run, jump, sneak and hack your way through challenges as you unravel a complex secret shrouded in intrigue, according to the blurb. It says amongst other things that you'll be taking part in a number of different mini-games which are tied to hacking certain devices, and these mini-games actually pay homage to the original Yars Revenge, which is a really interesting idea actually, to take the simple concept of that original game and still tie it into this newer story. As I mentioned, it's out on the 10th and it will sell for £24.99. Next then we have Elsie, which comes via Playtonic. This promises roguelike action, platforming, countless weapons and abilities as you make your way across procedurally generated levels, taking on robot enemies with a precision parrying system tied to the combat. You'll have to dash, dive and shoot your way through stages, making strategic decisions on upgrades, skills and weapons, which will alter the dynamic of each run. It promises challenging boss battles and biome guardians you'll need to take on as well, and I do like its vibrant art style, I must say. Does a good job of emulating what would have come in the past, but in a way that just wouldn't have been possible back then in terms of things such as colour palette and background detail. It's another one out on the 10th and it will sell for £19.99 or your regional equivalent. Then we have Eden Genesis, which calls itself a platform game focused on fast-paced trials, quick reflexes and a rich story set in a cyberpunk world. You play as Leah, a young cyborg lady who signs up for experimental treatment to find a cure for what is killing augmented people. It says you'll need to overcome the trials to unlock your full mind potential and eliminate the corruption born from the implants that are destroying your neurons. It promises to be quite a balanced platformer, saying that any player should be able to reach the end of the game and complete the main story, but there is extra content for more demanding players and many of the trials are optional and offer a higher level of difficulty. It goes on to say the story is deep in this futuristic world, and as I mentioned at the beginning, a lot of the gameplay relies on quick reflexes. Eden Genesis releases on the 11th and it will sell for £22.49. Also this week we have Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP. Now this game first released, I just looked it up actually, I can remember it coming out, but I'm shocked to see it was actually 2012. Time really does fly, they're not mucking about when they say that. And this game sold 1.24 million copies worldwide on its first release. This is a hack and slash game where you play as a cheerleader named Juliet, who is born into a family of zombie hunters and uses her trusty chainsaw to rip and tear through the undead. It says the RePOP edition adds speedier chainsaw action and auto fire for your chainsaw blaster, as well as updating the graphics. I seem to remember this one scoring fairly well back in the day. As far as I can remember at least, I think it was a kind of a 7 out of 10 game. And it will sell for £37.99, albeit you can get 10% off of that price up until just before launch, which is the 12th, if you want to see what it was all about. Also this week we have NanoApostle, a dark sci-fi boss rush title. You'll battle against merciless adversaries, facing axe-wielding mechs, fire-spewing behemoths, and psychokinetic terrors. And the battles are multi-stage, as when threatened, the creatures feature a fail-safe, causing them to become more ferocious. You play as Anita, who is implanted with the sentient nanomechanical entity known as Apostle, and they'll need to work together to take down the aforementioned bosses. You'll earn skill points that you can use to level up your character, and there are a number of challenges in the challenge system, and this is a game that we will cover next week. It's out on the 12th and it will sell for £16.99. We then have Wild Bastards, which is from the same team behind Void Bastards, a very good first-person roguelite I guess it was, with a really interesting art style. This one is a hybrid first-person shooter and strategy game, and a spiritual successor to the game I mentioned a moment ago. It features tactical combat, detailed management systems, and a roguelike campaign, and you'll need to travel from planet to planet to recruit, manage and gunsling with a team of 13 outlaws. They'll each have their own weaponry, special powers and growth tree, and on the planets themselves you'll be wrangling loot and starting showdowns that are then played out in bite-sized shootouts. You'll need to build and maintain the relationships with your 13 members, and half of the battle by the sounds of it will be getting the members of your team to work together. Definitely sounds interesting, has just as good an art style as that first game by the looks of it, and it's out on the 12th for £27.99. or your regional equivalent, but you can get 15% off of that price up until the 26th of September.
A challenge. Locked and loaded.
Then we have Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics. This is one I'm very much looking forward to. I've said on the channel a number of times that I am a big fan of fighting games and beat-em-ups, and the reason I say beat-em-ups is because this does include one such game from that genre, which I wasn't expecting actually. That's quite a nice surprise. So it features games such as Marvel vs. Capcom and Marvel vs. Capcom 2, as well as X-Men Children of the Atom, Marvel Superheroes, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, and Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter. The beat-em-up I mentioned is The Punisher, and that one in particular does give me hope that perhaps we'll see a sequel to Capcom's beat-em-up bundle that they made a few years ago now, with licensed games included. That would be great to get things such as Cadillacs and Dinosaurs or Alien vs. Predator. Might be a pipe dream, but we'll see. This does give me a glimmer of hope. Moving back to this game though, each game in the collection can be played either online or offline, and it promises smooth online play, with rollback netcode included, which is good to see, and there is also a mode for beginners where you can adjust the difficulty and create one-button specials, which I think's always a good move, to be honest. I've seen a few of the Street Fighter games do that over the years. I seem to remember the 3DS one do that with the touchscreen. It's nice for people that aren't quite as versed in fighting games to still be able to access the game they've bought. It's going to sell for £39.99 and it's out on the 12th. Next is Fabledom, which is a laid-back city builder according to the blurb, set in a fairy tale world. It says a vast land awaits your settlers and is ready to be colonised, and it offers an accessible and intuitive way of playing city builders with no Excel sheet nor optimisation required to build yourself a kingdom. You'll need to build your economy, exchange rare resources to grow and evolve, and it says there are numerous ways that you can interact with other kingdoms. You also need to build an army and elect a hero to protect your kingdom, and it does look like there's a romance option in there of some description too. No trailer on the eShop, hopefully you're watching one now, but I do like the screenshots, as long as it runs well of course. This one's out on the 12th and it will sell for £22.49, but you can get 30% off of that price, which is pretty generous, up until launch day.
And its surroundings look like. Fablings really only care about 3 things in life: a place to call home, food, and love. Ah, love.
The penultimate game for the week then is Caravan SandWitch, which will see you embark on a journey across a sci-fi province-like world, driven by a mystery to find your missing sister. You'll need to interact with the communities to help them with their tasks and meet new people along the way, and it says you'll be taking your time to explore the world, whether in your van or on foot. It says life is simple, no combat, no death, no timer, just you, your van and the world, and that is all it says. I thought there was going to be an antagonist called the SandWitch, I must say. Perhaps there will be, there is a shadowy figure towards the end of the trailer. But it's out on the 12th for £22.49 if you are interested. And finally for the week then we have Edge of Sanity, which is a psychological horror inspired by the Cthulhu mythos in a handcrafted 2D art style according to the blurb. It says it's narrative driven, featuring an uncanny atmosphere and sinister story, as you explore remote areas to find other survivors in a world of madness. It says you'll need to pick your fights wisely or things might go from bad to worse, and it looks like madness is a recurring theme throughout the game, which will result in traumas affecting your character's actions and sense of reality. It looks as if the story revolves around you being part of a resupply team, helping scientists working in the Alaskan field lab, although once you arrive, you find the site completely devoid of humanity. You'll stumble across horrifying creatures whilst there, causing your team to split up, and that is where the survival aspect sets in. I like the sound of this one actually. This is from Daedalic, who generally do focus on publishing games with a very heavy story emphasis, so it'll be interesting to see how they deal with the horror side and any combat that may come with it. It's releasing on the 13th for £16.74 or your regional equivalent, but you can get 10% off of that price up until launch day. So there you have it, there's a week of Nintendo Switch releases. Do any of those games interest you? Will you be picking any of them up? Please do let us know in the comment section below. We'll definitely be covering a few of these next week, so please do look out for that. And don't forget, if you are looking for eShop credit to pick any of these games up, you can get your eShop cards on our website, switchup.gg. Doing so will get you 5% of your purchase price back as cashback that you can then use against a future purchase, and there's also links down there to PlayAsia amongst other places. If you want to import any games, I'll most certainly be importing the Marvel vs Capcom collection, which won't get a release over here in Europe, I'm sure. Capcom don't like doing that these days. Use the link and the code if you want to import anything yourself, and you'll get yourself 5% off of your order. A quick thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.